We have a massive injury update regarding the status of Aaron Nola, who's off to the worst start of his MLB career and is seeing some time on the injured list there. Rob Thomson recently spoke to Phillies media, including our very own Luke Arcani, revealing his status as well as paving the way for former top prospect Mick Abel to make his ML debut on Sunday. I do want to break down exactly what this means for this Phillies team and why I think this decision is a bit telling for a lot of reasons with this Phillies rotation. I'm going to dive into exactly why that is the case with implications to Mick Abel directly and sort of what I think the belief behind the scenes in with Aaron Nola. So going to get into all that in this video here, but before I do want to remind you guys, as always, to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. At this point in time, just 25.2% of you guys watching these videos are subscribed to the channel. Let's get this Phillies Digest family growing. We got plenty more good baseball to break down and some pretty exciting storylines, including this right here with Aaron Nola. So to start off with the recent update that we do have here, do want to pull off initially from Todd Zalecki here, who tweets out, Aaron Nola is going to the IL with an ankle sprain. Mick Abel will make his ML debut on Sunday versus Paul Skeens. Taijuan Walker will rejoin the rotation next week in Colorado. Abel will make one start, then return to AAA. Walker will take Nola's spot until he returns. Now, to get out in front of how Aaron Nola has been this season, it has been dreadful. There is no way around how disappointing that has been, and to lay out the numbers as a whole, he's pitched in 9 games. He is 1-7 to start the season, has thrown just 49.2 innings, allowed 11 home runs, 59 hits to his 52 strikeouts. That comes out to a 10.7 hits per 9 inning rate, a 6.16 ERA, and a 1.510 whip. That is not good enough from a guy who is perceived in ideal conditions to be the number 2 in this Phillies rotation. He was obviously paid this offseason to be with this franchise long term, that this has been a homegrown talent that the Phillies have invested a significant amount in from a time perspective, from a money perspective, and really a belief perspective of his importance to this team, but we're clearly not seeing the best stuff from Aaron Nola to start this season. Now, to talk about just the injured list appearance as a whole, this to me has all the makings of what we call a phantom IL stint here, that I don't think there's probably that significant of an issue with Aaron Nola. This is more of a clear your head, get your mind right, and prepared to be back out there. Now, there's probably, I'm sure there's a world where he tweaked his ankle or something happened. Obviously, these guys are athletes and are dealing with stuff on a day-to-day. Frankly, I would guess most guys have some sort of nagging issue that would be best served to recover by getting a little time off, and Aaron Nola is being granted this opportunity. But what the bigger storyline here is the decision to go with Mick Abel for me. And to kind of highlight things as a whole, first I want to highlight, I think it's cool that Aaron Nola was straight up thrilled to hear that Mick Abel is the guy getting the opportunity, and this is a pitcher that's been a bit lost in the shuffle from the Phillies perspective. Obviously, we've talked with googly eyes right here on this channel about the potential of Andrew Painter making his return to the rotation, but the telling part about this for me is they are not going that direction just yet, and what I think is very obvious to conclude is they are not getting moved off their timeline with Andrew Painter under any circumstances here. It is very clear to me that the Phillies have their game plan in place for what the pathway to him coming to the majors is, the timeline that they have established is the best case scenario, and they're not moving off that for any given circumstance. I think that's very telling for their belief in who Painter can be, and it is the right move to take the long-term approach with him. Now, in regards to Mick Abel overall, he is a guy, as I mentioned, has got lost in the shuffle. And to kind of highlight what exactly his profile is, we do have this from MLB.com as kind of a write-up here, which says, Abel still possesses many of the qualities that made him a top draft prospect, with 4 or 5 quality pitches coming from his 6'5" frame. His fastball velocity dipped a bit in 2024, but he was still touching 98 miles per hour and averaging 94.6 miles per hour with his 4-seamer, missing a decent amount of bats with it. He also added a 2-seamer that generated more contact on the ground. In 2023, his curve, now thrown in the 81 to 84 mile per hour range, was the better of his 2 breaking balls, but last year, his mid-80s slider was a more consistent option, especially in terms of landing for strikes. He can sell his upper 80s changeup with sink well. Mick Abel is a solid pitcher, a guy that I do believe could turn out to be a legitimate MLB option, but I don't see it happening here in Philadelphia. And I do think it is a bit strategic that this matchup is heading against a very lifeless Pittsburgh Pirates team who've already fired their manager, who are one of the worst teams in the major leagues, as kind of an opportunity to showcase him and potentially drive up the potential trade value of Mick Abel here. Unfortunately for Mick, looking around, the status of this Phillies rotation that once again we've talked about as a significant strength all year when we talk about without Zack Wheeler. Jesus Luzardo, who's been straight up awesome. Ranger Suarez, who looks to be returning to the version of himself that we believed he could be. Andrew Painter looking over and ready to be called up at this time. Christopher Sanchez, who obviously has established himself, had his breakout last year and still looks to be close to that guy at this point in time. There's not a lot of room for Mick Abel to carve his pathway to the MLB here, and that is sort of why I think this is all going down now. Now, obviously, pitching against Paul Skeens isn't going to be the easiest task in the world, but Mick Abel's just got to keep his head down and do his thing. I do believe if he has a strong performance, that more of the motivation behind this from the Phillies' perspective is to drive up that market and him potentially being the route to getting the missing player or missing piece that this team is looking for ahead of the trade deadline here. So very interesting to see how that all goes down here. And do want to reflect a little bit more on Aaron Nola, because in all reality, while I think that is certainly a part of it, the driving up the market, Aaron Nola is still the story here. This guy has not looked like the version of the pitcher that we expect him to be, and this has been the most concerning start that we've ever seen to his MLB career. Now, a couple other quotes we did have on this. I did want to acknowledge this. Shout out to Sean Nestor of Philly Sports Network here, that he tweets out, Rob Thomson on Aaron Nola, quote, "He takes a lot of pride in getting 200 innings, getting his 30-plus starts, being available for his team." And that is one thing I think was underrated in the Aaron Nola conversation. It is increasingly rare in today's MLB for pitchers to log the amount of innings that Nola does on a consistent basis. This is his first time heading to the IL list since 2017. Think about that for a minute. I was still in high school the last time Aaron Nola was on the injured list here, and here he is stepping back in and obviously having a chance to get his mind and body right here. So for Nola specifically, he's a horse, and I do think that should be appreciated over the marathon that is the MLB season. You can even make an argument to me that if Nola does not return to form, and I think he will certainly be better than he started the season, but if there is a concern, there is a world where he's squeezed out of this playoff rotation, where we're talking about their best options to win when just speaking about the top end of their rotation may not involve Aaron Nola. Now, while that is obviously not great in an ideal situation based on the monetary commitment to him, based on the expectations for him as a player, I also would argue it's a bit of a strength or telling for just how strong the Phillies pitching offense or options are. That when you have a guy like Christopher Sanchez or Ranger Suarez, these are guys that I think would make their push for being #1 starters on plenty of other MLB teams here, and it's pretty impressive that the Phillies have their deck stacked in the way that it is. Now, a couple other things that I did want to note here for starters, and just to reflect on this overall, it is a 1-7 start, and it is the worst ERA start to his career overall. We just have to acknowledge that is up in front. That is a part of this overall. We got to hope that Aaron Nola settles in from here. I do not hope this is a beginning of the end or a long-term issue that he's battling. I think the track record that he has as a pitcher does speak for itself way more than people are willing to give him a little bit of leniency, but there's no way around it. It's been a nightmare start to the season. So let's hope that this checks a lot of boxes, this kind of sort of injury issue here. That for one, Aaron Nola can get himself right. For two, that Mick Abel does shine in his MLB debut and shows that he can bring something to the table, and that does potentially open the pathway to him being viewed as a valuable trade asset that could be the pathway to the Phillies getting that missing piece here. I do think there should be plenty of teams for the same reasons when speaking about this strength of the Phillies pitching staff that should view Mick Abel on a little bit of higher light. He's also made quite a few comments himself as sort of like, oh, what do I got to do to get noticed down in the minor leagues, which I can appreciate. I don't take anything wrong with that, as far as you should have confidence in yourself, and he's right that he has been pitching out of his mind down in the minors, particularly this season. So this is now his chance to prove it. Whether his future is in red pinstripes or somewhere else is to be determined. But shout out to Mick Abel. Welcome to the show. And hopefully Aaron Nola can settle in and be just fine over the length of the season. Ultimately, we will see how things go down from there, but still a lot to unpack in this Philly season. So do remind you guys one more time to make sure you are smashing that subscribe button and tapping in with us here at Phillies Digest. Again, 74.8% of you guys watching these videos have not subscribed to the channel just yet. Let's get this Phillies Digest family growing. Let's hope this is just the one blip in Aaron Nola's season and he is back on track moving forward. And let's root for Mick Abel on Sunday. Appreciate you guys for tuning into this video here. Make sure you're dropping a like, any comments you have below. I'll be back talking with you next time. Peace.